Happy Friday the 13th.
Hello everybody, Film Trigger here. My name is Stevie Cade and happy Friday the 13th. Today we're going to revisit a very controversial remake, the 2009 Friday the 13th. Directed by Marcus Nispel, produced by Walter Hamada and Michael Bay, and written by Damian Shannon and Mark Schiff, who also wrote Freddy vs. Jason. And it stars Jared Padalecki, Danielle Panabaker, Amanda Righetti, Travis Van Winkle, Aaron Yu, and Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees. And essentially this movie is about a seasoned Jason Voorhees terrorizing teenagers that have unknowingly crossed into his territory.
Dude, we are way the fuck off.
No, we're not.
Yes.
Actually, no, we're not. Not everything shows up on GPS, Richie.
Meanwhile, Clay Miller, played by Jared Padalecki, arrives at the lake to search for his sister.
I'm looking for my sister. She's gone missing about a month and a half ago.
Whitney, played by Amanda Righetti, who had mysteriously disappeared. Overall, I love this movie, and I actually consider it to be one of my favorite in the entire franchise. And I know hardcore fans don't see it that way. They typically don't like this movie, and I'm not quite sure why. I maybe just like movies that people don't like. I don't know. I don't get the hate for this film. It not only gives you an updated, more modern version of Jason Voorhees, but it also lets you dive deeper into his psyche and kind of gives you a peek on how this person could actually exist in real life. Also, while keeping to Friday the 13th mythologies and using elements of previous films. And it starts out with the opening credit sequence showing a revised recap of the events that took place in the original 1980 film.
I've killed all the others. It'll be easier for you than it was for Jason. Why? You need to be punished for what you did to him. I didn't do anything. You let him drown. Jason was my son. You should have been watching him.
Where Jason's mother goes on a killing spree, killing the camp counselors who she finds responsible for her son Jason's drowning, who has surprisingly managed to survive drowning, which seems to be a Jason trait. Maybe it's his superpower. He just can't die. But yeah, she gets decapitated right in front of him.
Every minute!
And this begins Jason's long descent into a lifetime of paranoia, isolation, PTSD, and revenge for his mother's death.
They must be punished, Jason, for what they did to you, for what they did to me. Kill for mother.
And that opening credit sequence is followed by one of the best kill scenes in the movie and probably in the entire franchise, which is bittersweet because it never really reaches that level of high endurance kill awesomeness again throughout the movie.
Amanda!
And that title card shows up 23 minutes and 50 seconds after the movie has already started. So everything you need to know about Jason, you know within 25 minutes of the movie. That's a positive way to look at that. Although the best kill sequence is in the beginning of the movie, we do get a fantastic series of creative kills that rack up a pretty notable body count of 13 bodies. 13 was an accident. I mean, there's a 14 body count total if you include his mother, but Jason only kills 13 himself. Friday the 13th. See what they did with the 13? Anyway. And the movie gives me everything that I want, while diving more in depth of Jason Voorhees' mental state and like how he survives. You get to see the burlap sack Jason, and the classic hockey mask.
God, you scared the shit out of me, bro.
Which didn't even show up until the third film of the original series. But then on top of that, we get to dive into his deep-seated mommy issues.
Jason!
And peek into how he actually works and functions. One of the examples of this is showing the underground tunnel system that Jason has dug out through the past 30 years at Camp Crystal Lake. The reasoning for putting this underground system in the movie was to give an explanation of how Jason always seemed one step ahead, how he always appeared to just pop up anywhere on the camp without ever showing him actually walking anywhere. And I guess to some that's arguably a misstep because people like that mystery of Jason, but for me, I enjoy knowing this stuff. Like, how did he get from here to here? A series of underground tunnels. Perfect. He's also a much more active Jason. We see him running and aggressively searching for people. And these victims are not at random. These are people that have crossed into his territory, making Jason essentially just a fucked up version of Rambo. If you think about it, that's kind of the deal. That's exactly what he is. A man suffering from PTSD who will stop at nothing to bring down unwanted trespassers. That's Rambo. He's a Rambo. And that makes Jason more human-like. Again, hardcore fans won't like that. They prefer the zombie-like Jason. And you know what? I'll give you that. Zombie-like Jason is fun. But we've seen that Jason. We've seen enough of that Jason. I want to see this Jason. I want to see a more humanized, more personable, somebody that I kind of even feel sorry for. We see him doing active things like turning on the floodlights or sharpening his machete. All around being an active human being. Which brings me to Derek Mears, the person who plays Jason. He has brought to life one of the most frightening and intimidating versions of Jason I have ever seen. Not only does he tower over everybody with his aggressive mask, but his body language has a sort of integrity behind it, something that we haven't seen from Jason before. And he's been a bigger character, but he's always been that, again, that zombie, like, I'm just reach through the window, pull somebody out. This Jason's not covered up by the overalls and the jacket. You see more of his body tone, and that makes him more relatable to me. And Derek Mears excels at performing as Jason, and I hope they bring him back. Even if they don't revisit this specific series, I hope they bring him back to play Jason again, because I'm a Derek Mears fan. Now, for the characters in this movie, they are your run-of-the-mill, classic Friday the 13th, pot-smoking, sex-having, underage, drinking teenagers. That's all you typically expect to see from a Friday the 13th. Obviously, there's going to be your main characters that you dive more into, but these are your killable characters. You don't need much character development, and you know everybody's role in this movie, from the token black guy.
That's not a good look for you, man. You asked the one black guy to pump the gas for you? Shit.
To the overly aggressive alpha male jock that is Trent.
You okay, bro? Is everything good?
Yeah, everything's fine. Thanks.
So you don't want to be friends after this? You don't want to hang out? It's not me. This guy's being a dick.
And speaking of Trent, Michael Bay has stated that the character Trent, played by Travis Van Winkle, is the same character, Trent DeMarco, that we see in Transformers.
Hey, how about you let me drive?
Oh, no. This is not a toy. These 22s, I don't want you grinding them. No. Why doesn't my little bunny just hop in the back seat?
Who is also played by Travis Van Winkle, which ties in these movies to actually be in the same universe. So Transformers and Friday the 13th are canon with each other. Fun fact. But beyond giving us the typical kill-off teenagers, this film also pays many respects to the original films, not only reusing elements and storylines, but even adding props from the older movies into this one, as kind of like Easter eggs. Like in the tunnel scene with Jason Voorhees, in one of the shots you can see the sweater worn by Mrs. Voorhees in the original 1980 film. And this movie is splattered with Easter eggs and nods throughout the whole movie. And even at one point, this movie was actually even supposed to cameo some of the previous cast members, was even going to be canon to the previous films, bringing back Tommy Jarvis to be Jason's nemesis in the movie. But for some reason, the creators decided just to keep it completely separate, make it a total remake, and even going as far as calling the cast members that they asked to make a cameo and telling them, you know what, we've actually decided not to even do your cameos anymore. I'm not sure why. I think that would have been kind of cool, but it is what it is. So I do have some negatives, because this movie is not perfect, and one of them is going to be it has too much focus on the sexual parts. Now, I know sex scenes and topless women are notorious in horror and slasher films, but this one pays a little too much attention to it, especially in the killer cut.
Like that bitch? You know you do.
And I'm not alone in this thought. Actually, Michael Bay himself walked out during the premiere of this movie stating it featured too much sex. Michael Bay. Come on, Michael Bay. Like, you haven't had your fair share of over-sexualizing women, specifically Megan Fox. And also, the comedy doesn't fit for me. It's not good. It doesn't fit the tone of this movie. It seems like they took comedy bits from 90s movies and just like stuck them in here.
To me, you could wallpaper the whole place with him, but the owner makes the rules, and he's a real...
and takes me out of the moment. And last but not least, the jump scene at the very end of the movie, where Jason kind of comes back. You know, after Clay and Whitney dumped Jason's body back into Crystal Lake and gave him all his stuff back for some reason. They do that last jump scare where Jason, you know, shoots through the bottom of the deck and ultimately assume he takes down Whitney. We were fooled before when we thought he killed Whitney in the beginning, so maybe he just maybe he just took her and gave her a big hug, said, "Bye, mommy, I love you." But with all that, I give this movie a solid B.
I loved it! Oh, it was great! Well, it was pretty good. Well, it wasn't bad.
It's fun, it's a good slasher flick, and a perfect movie to watch to kick off the Halloween season, which is what I will be doing tonight. So, what did you guys think about this movie? Are you one of the fanatics that love the originals and hate this movie? Let me know why. I'm very interested in talking to you in the comment section below. And also, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
Fine. Oh, no. To all the felching?
No.
Welching?
Yes.